Hey dudes, welcome to the channel. The developers of Dark and Darker have been feeding us weekly teasers lately that give us a decent glimpse of how development is progressing for the game. But as the info is coming in dribs and drabs and there's tons of channels making more and more videos to summarize on what's happening, it can be a bit difficult for anyone who isn't digging for information and following the game's socials on a daily basis to keep up with what's changing. So I've made this hopefully brief video to sum up all of the most significant changes implemented into the game so you don't have to go looking anywhere else. Until the next update, of course. If you enjoy the video or find it useful, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel for more Dark and Darker content. So, I'll start with a quick roundup of new items that have been added since the previous playtest. We have items specific to the bard, such as the lyre, the drums, and the flute, whereas previously we just had the lute. And in the latest teaser video that features the bard, we don't see the lute at all. I don't know if this means that the lute has been replaced by the lyre, or whether it's a case of different buffs can be cast by different instruments, so in this case they chose to equip the lyre instead of the lute. It's also worth noting that the fighter is also carrying the lyre in one of their weapon slots in this example. This probably means that much like the drum they have added, that any class will be able to equip and toss instruments as rudimentary projectiles which deal a small amount of damage. We can definitely see this in practice with the drums being thrown around like they're playing hot potato, so it wouldn't surprise me if this is the explanation for the fighter carrying the lyre here, however this is unconfirmed. Another item that has been added is the longsword, which can be equipped by the fighter and the warlock, which is a new class that I'll talk about briefly in a moment. The longsword is a two-handed weapon and its effectiveness will probably land somewhere between the falchion and the Zweihander, but a lot more forgiving when you're in a tight situations with your teammates. I mentioned the warlock, so we have some new class-specific items for them, such as the occultist pants, occultist boots, and unsurprisingly, these cannot be equipped by any other class at the moment. We have a fancy new helmet called Chapelle de Feu that can be equipped by the fighter or the cleric, and this thing is just stylish as hell and I want one for my weekend shopping trips. And we also have some random items such as broken and intact skulls, moldy bread, and even maggots, which we have no idea what their purpose is yet, but I would like to take a guess at them either being used for crafting or trading with the merchants. So I mentioned the warlock. I'll go over this briefly because I already did a previous video focusing just on the warlock, and you can click the link in the top right if you want to hear me go into a bit more detail on the spells and perks that come with the class. But we know that the warlock will come with their own unique set of spells and armor items, and also won't get any benefit from consuming healing items, because health management is dictated by their use of spells. It looks to me like they will basically fill the role of a hybrid fighter/wizard with less focus on offensive AoE spells and a little less tanky than the fighter. We have some changes to other classes too, such as the skill check for the bard whilst they play their music. It's been updated so that you now will have a clear indication of whether you are playing a song well or poorly, which dictates its ultimate effectiveness. As we saw earlier with the flute, the lyre and the drums, I also expect that each one of these instruments is going to be casting different buffs. There's a small change to the ranger also, who can now stack traps up to 2, so you could theoretically carry 12 traps in total in your hotbar if you had nothing else equipped. Sticking with the subject of characters, we also appear to have a new race, the orc, which is likely a customization option similar to that of the elf and the skeleton skins that we've seen available in the game previously. You'll probably be able to obtain this from the in-game store with your adventure currency, which is earned from successful extracts and such. Some other not-so-friendly character additions to the game come in the form of this new Inferno mob spawn, the Demon Berserker, which looks like it will be a pretty tough enemy to come across, as he's the size of Arnold Schwarzenegger from back when he was Conan the Barbarian, and he's also wielding what looks to be a gigantic bone scimitar that no doubt does a lot of damage. The Inferno map also appears to have a new boss character, the Skeleton Warlord, who of course comes with his own set of spells and summons, in particular the Skeleton Royal Guard, who I'm guessing probably put out most of the damage, whilst the Warlord AoEs the shit out of your party and leaves you as easy pickings for his minions. The Inferno map also looks a lot more detailed now, or at least it is since I last made it down there successfully. The lighting looks great, the scenery is oppressive, and it feels like a real nightmare dungeon. Whilst I'm talking about new map additions, I'll quickly summarize any changes to the other maps. The Goblin Caves has new traps, which I would expect to see on the other maps at some point, but we have no reference footage for that to confirm. But here we see the Flame Trap, which could get you into a spot of bother if you're not careful. There's some new scenery for the Goblin Caves, most notably this multi-level prison cell, which looks suitably morbid, and this room which is nondescript other than for a couple of tents we can see, which leads to a sneaky exit out of the dungeon, no portal required. So, some more minor things for me to go over are that the player UI has been updated with new presentation of the characters in the bottom left with their current active boons and debuffs. We can see the active weapon slot and the utility toolbar on the bottom right, which now gives us a much more clear indication of what's equipped and how much of it. We can also see the rarity of the items we have equipped here now too, which is pretty useful. Previously, we had a character stat that you could see when opening your inventory which depicted a character's weight. This hinted at the fact that loadout weight could influence the movement speed of our adventurer in the future when IRONMACE decided to implement it. Well, it seems like they're not planning to implement it anymore as it has been completely removed from the character stats. And I have to say I'm really happy about this. I honestly believe it would have led to heavier armors being completely obsolete because there's no point chasing the Flash when you can only move the speed of a turtle. And finally, I'll end with some extra character customization because it makes me feel warm and fuzzy and hopefully sends you away from this video feeling the same way. We have what I am calling a nice cup of mulled wine to sip on, a fancy smoking pipe that you'd be proud to see Gandalf huffing on, and there even appears to be a skin for the campfire which includes a spit roasted rabbit. Now, these are purely cosmetic, or at least I believe so. It's likely a hint towards the purchasable items that IRONMACE will offer when the game goes live. Whether it be with adventure currency or IRL currency, I don't know, but I'm happy either way. If I can help support the development of a game with a few extra pennies from my pocket, then I'm happy to do so. And I think that's it, or at least I hope so. If I missed anything that I should have included, then please let me know in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed this roundup, then let me know, and I'll keep making them throughout development to give you guys a convenient catch-up, rather than having to source all the info yourselves. If you want to support or follow me in any other way, then there's links in the description for my Twitch channel and my other socials. Also, don't forget to subscribe and stick the thumb up my bum. Until we meet again, I will be here holding the line, and I hope to catch you on the flip-flop. Peace.